Good day, everyone. My name is PS Tang. I'm the managing director of a Singapore company called Arita M. Yeah, we are into private LTE and private 5G. And today I would just want to share some of our use cases and some of our lessons learned, and also some challenges when we are using dedicated frequency spectrum in Singapore. A brief introduction of what we do. We actually incorporated in Singapore in 2014. We've been given a license to be able to deploy private mobile network operations in Singapore. And we also can be a MVNO because we are intending to combine private network with the public network. Yeah. Our key focus are to serve the mission critical and business critical applications, especially robotics, unmanned system, and also the Industry 4.0. Yeah. Our key focus, as I mentioned, with the private network, that we can enable unmanned vehicles or robotic to be controlled beyond visual line of sight, so that you can actually guarantee you have ultra reliable and low latency communication to control the robotics. Very important, I think some big players, especially in public safety, they require total isolation from the internet, and that is very important for them. And that's what a private network with dedicated spectrum provides. But we only have 10 megahertz spectrum in Singapore, so we are actually using other available spectrum, including TV white space. Yeah, so one of our partners are bringing in their TV white space technology together with our private network to serve the vertical industry in Singapore. Myself, I'm a steering committee member of the GTI, has been that for almost 9 years, I think. And before that, I was a founding director of a greenfield operators in Malaysia called the Packet One or the P1 Group. My other colleagues, especially Mr. Goh Liang Kwang, was previously the Deputy Commissioner of Police in Singapore. So he's very familiar with the public safety and national security type of applications. And he was also the CEO of the Singapore Broadcasting Authority. So he's also very familiar with the broadcast industry. Mr. Yip is my GM, has been into critical communication unmanned system for quite a while. He still sits on our standard advisory committee of our regulators in Singapore called IMDA. So I think in short, when we try to serve the vertical industries as a company, we need to provide an end-to-end solution or capability. Yeah? By understand the customer's requirement, be able to scope up the project, provide all the necessary project management, the radio design, modeling, simulation, system integration, which is one big part that I think a lot of the vendors like yourself or the operator don't deal with. You have to integrate into their robotic system. You have to integrate into some of their very specific devices. Yeah. So after we integrate, after we deploy, we would need to do all the implementation, all the testing, and all the optimization, followed by providing managed services. Because a lot of the clients, they had very little knowledge about the telecom standard. Yeah, so I think the managed service will give them sufficient comfort. Yeah, and as a technology company, we do develop some of our enabling technology, especially those that are needed for improving the cybersecurities of the robotic use, and especially trying to be able to manage multiple unmanned system in the same airspace. Yeah. So we did apply for some patents on this area as well. These are some of our use cases. I think in Singapore, with a team of partners, we had completed an end-to-end unmanned system that are linked to the Civil Aviation Authority and allow us to control drones, multiple different types of drones in our central control center using beyond visual line of sight. Yeah. And it's important because I think most of the BV loss flight of drones that you hear around the world are into rural or suburban. Yeah. But in Singapore, we actually have the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore sponsoring the trial where we use our private network with our partner to fly drone in a dense urban environment in a BV loss mode. So Singapore will be quickly allowing BV loss drone applications in a dense urban environment. They are finalizing all the framework right now. And also important with this platform, we are now expanding into other potential application area in Singapore, which are using drone for inspection of infrastructure. In fact, inspection of quality inspection for shipbuilding, ship-to-shore delivery, counter-drone solution, security, surveillance, and emergencies assistant using robotics. Yeah, so this would be for the drones. Yeah. Second use case is again using private network to allow BV loss control of unmanned surface vessel. Yeah, by the Singapore Police Coast Guard. Yeah. In this, they need to be able to manipulate or drive the boat tens of kilometers away and be able to drive the boat at very high speed, yeah, to chase after intruder. Yeah. So this is the setup, and once we have more tests done along Singapore water, they could be expanding the full coverage of the Singapore territory water so that they can have more unmanned surveillance boat, yeah, and be able to use that to chase after intruder in the Singapore water. Other potential usage on the marine side would be by our Maritime Port Authority of Singapore. They are using it for various operations within the port premises. The third use case that we have deployed is into a very large manufacturing quite campus or location. In this case, it's a big shipbuilding yard. As you might know, Singapore actually have one of the top 2 offshore platform manufacturer in the world. So they do manufacture both the offshore platform and ship within this yard, which actually go up to be around 8 square kilometers. Yeah, we haven't shown the whole shipyard here. And they're using it really for the push-to-talk, push-to-video, mission-critical communication within different project groups inside the shipyard. Yeah. And they are exploring now to use it for automated guided vehicle to move a big piece of metal around the shipyard, using drones, UAV for operational security and safety inspection, together with, as I mentioned, using TV white space to have a lot more cameras within the shipyard and for quality visual inspection in shipbuilding. And if that is implemented properly, they will have saved 20–30% of their shipbuilding schedule. Other opportunities are into construction sites and remote sites. As you know, Singapore being a small island, but we are building multiple underground structure, including the mass rapid transit and our deep sewage tunnels. Yeah, of course, public telco cannot cover this area, so they are looking into using private network to do that. And there are still many other underserved areas that require private network to allow them to have mission critical communication. These will be examples of what they use in the tunnel construction and why private mobile has advantages. Yeah. In Singapore, we are even considering to use some of the fixed satellite spectrum, especially 3.7 to 3.8 gigahertz that are utilized extensively for, we call the C-band satellite. We are trying to use that in the underground environment, yeah, subject to the regulators' approval. Yeah. Other areas, there are a lot of plan of using drones for site inspection and monitoring, chemical coating, so that it can save costs on scaffolding, and also they eliminate the hazard of human being working from a very high location. We're also talking about remote operated tower crane, so that again the operator don't have to climb up the crane. They can actually manage the crane operation on the ground level. There are plenty more applications, especially the Industry 4.0. A lot of them are now talking about if they're building a private network in their whole factory, can they maybe should explore sharing some of those common infrastructure for the public telco to use it for in-building coverage. Yeah, so watch out for this space. I think there are plenty of opportunity here where you should be combining private network and public network common infrastructure to reduce the overall capex. Yeah, so we have a lot more advantages using private network in this sort of environment. Yeah, and we are also telling the building owners, the factory owners, that if they can own that common infrastructure, they can have more innovation in the future. It will be quicker for them to react and quicker for them to be able to bring in new innovation of their own private network applications, rather than right now, if they're relying on the public telco, there's just too much work and coordination with the public telco in order to get anything done. Yeah. So these are the advantage that we have highlighted to the building owners or the factory owners, yeah, or even the airport owners or the seaport owners. Yeah. So what we are actually promoting in Singapore, and we hope that this could be useful for some of you in other parts of the world, that if you can combine public and private mobile, each of them have their own values and value propositions, then you could actually expand revenue. You can have differentiations when you try to sell to the vertical industry, cost saving in terms of capex, and lower cyber risk by protecting the private and the public network. The private network is much easier to protect because it's totally isolated. But once you touch the public network, it needs a different level of cyber attack monitoring. Yeah. So all that can be done if you combine private and public into a single platform for a specific customer. Yeah. And this is what we are talking about. Once you had a private network, you can actually enhance the cybersecurity and use that infrastructure to also monitor the public network. So we are actually working with an Israeli company to put that in place so that you don't need to have the public network cybersecurity, private network cybersecurity, and then how you actually put the two together, which is a bit incomplete. So we're trying to do all in one. Yeah, it's still under development right now. Yeah. So these are some of the challenges that we are seeing a lot. Yeah. When you talk to all the vertical industries, and in our case, very much public safety focus, the number one concern most of the vertical industries and the public safety guys is the risk of cyber vulnerability. Yeah. So people like your energy generations, this is one of their major concerns. And all of them would obviously wanted to have better direct control and management and the provisioning of their devices and sensor. They want to be, what you call that, comfortable that they can do this rather than have to rely on the public telco in order to bring in new devices and new capability. Yeah. The other thing is a bit of the misunderstanding of what 5G can do, yeah? Especially when talking about 5G on the mid-band. They are all expecting a gigabit capacity today, yeah, in the small location within their factories, and they have multiple machines in that same location. Yeah, so they do, a lot of them are really thinking about very high capacity real-time transmission, and they have plenty of high definition video for real-time video analytics and to be able to control their operation within their sites. Yeah. So I think, I know when we market 5G, we talk a lot about eMBB, about 110 gigabit. We talk about eMTC for 1 million connection per square kilometer, and then URLLC. All the vertical industries guys are bought in. They all love 5G, but they expect it to be on a single network, and they expect it to be very low cost, just like your mobile phone subscription on 4G. Yeah. So I think that is a lot more educating and changing a mindset is necessary in order for us to be able to get the industry to properly design and specify their requirement. And lastly, their manpower and wireless training, they need a lot of training of manpower because they are very weak in the wireless communication technology. Other things that we need a requirement to accelerate private LTE adoption to the enterprise, in our view, is really how to get more support from regulator to issue more dedicated frequency spectrum that can be reused by multiple users in different geographically separated operating zone. Yeah. So Singapore, we are considering 1.9 for private network on top of my current 1.8. Japan, Taiwan, of course, China already announced that using the 4.8, 4.9. USA, the 100 megahertz, 150 megahertz of CBRS. Germany, 100 meg for industry user. So that would be how should GTI, how would all of us be able to keep convincing the regulator that they can use dedicated frequency spectrum in their location for multiple users in different locations, yeah, because that is important, yeah, and convincing big building owners, especially big transport hubs, to be able to build and share common infrastructure to support both public and network for the general public communication and private network for the mission critical applications, and they need that to be isolated. Yeah, they call it in the industry operational technology, or so that's that's a part they want it to be isolated. Yeah, so we are discussing in multiple agencies in Singapore of the Ministry of Transport and big building owners. Hopefully, we can get more spectrum and get them to share common infrastructure with public network. I think this is probably my last slide. We are really talking about maybe new application platform that can combine public and private, yeah, to achieve all the objectives of EMBB, EMTC, and URLLC for many industry. Yeah, because URLLC very likely they will need it to be totally isolated because it is part of their operation technology, yeah, which they are very reluctant to open up to the public telco. But EMTC, maybe some of them sensitive, they want it private as well, but they are okay with public EMBB, yeah, because a lot of them, like the public safety agencies, require that as well, because a policeman will have their phone, body-worn cameras, but they will need robotics, yeah, and that need to be private. But for the policemen on the ground, they can rely on public network most of the time. Yeah, so you need to have all three capabilities with the police force, for example. Yeah, large manufacturing locations, they all still use public phone for communication, but they do need to have mission critical comms. They do need to have mission critical automation, or what you call the industrial IoT, that need private network. Yeah, so many big construction sites require mission critical communication, and private network can actually provide that during construction, where public network is not there yet. So these are some of the areas that we are seeing, we are sharing with all of you here, and hopefully you find it useful. We are always very open to want to hear from other people, other challenges, and how to encourage more adoption of private network by the vertical industry and the enterprise network. So thank you. That's the end of my presentation.